Good morning. This is the Sharing Wheel, and today's guest is George Sampson.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
And people might know George from the farmer's market.
Right.
Selling leather goods.
Yep. Every Monday through the summer, farmer's market is there, and I have a wide variety of belts and purses and wallets, and I have a little setup where kids can come and do a little bit of leather work, and they get to stamp images into a piece of scrap leather.
Fine.
And they can take that with them. It's free, and the parents get a kick out of it, and the kids get a kick out of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. And you also, I've seen you out in front of sort of like the old Maria's Pizza, just down here past the old Atomic. I'm thinking in the past now.
Yeah, I know. You're aging yourself.
Across from Casa de Moda, you know?
Yeah, Casa de Moda was a great store. Yeah, usually I set up the same setup that I have at the farmer's market. I set up in front of Archer Insurance, and it's a wide spot on the sidewalk, and people are running around, shopping, doing things, and some weeks I'm usually there on Saturday if the weather's good. Mm-hmm. I'll be there this Sunday because it's the only sunny day. It's Mother's Day, so not sure if it's such a great idea. But it's the only good day of the week that it's not going to be raining or windy or cloudy. So I'm going to give it a shot, and maybe you can pick up something for Mom on your way to dinner. Yeah, if you're late in buying gifts.
You also mentioned you made bike messenger bags or something similar to that.
Well, I can make a leather messenger bag.
Yeah.
That would be kind of a special order thing.
Special order.
Yeah. But I've made all kinds of bags through the years. Yeah. And people can come to me and describe something that they want, and I'll tell them if it's a lot of work and a lot of handwork, it might be a little too expensive to get that done. Mm-hmm. People think leather work is all really expensive, but I have bags I can sew on an industrial sewing machine and keep the price down pretty well. Yeah. But if they want hand stitching, saddle stitching, that's the time, and a lot of pockets, or they want a lot of zippers, and it creates a lot of work and labor. Right. You'll get a really good product, but like anything else, you have to pay for it. Yeah. And
you also need a license from the city.
Right.
You need a hawker's.
You need a permit, and this is what they end up giving you. I'm just showing the pink paper because it stands out nicely. And it's officially it's a Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Beverly, has the date at the top and the fee and the number, and it's a license to peddle. And it's typically called a peddler's and hawker's license. Right, so you could stand there and you could hawk goods, you could have political opinions. You could just announce something that's going to be come up with your club. If you're, there's a union club in town. There's all kinds of organizations that could get this permit, and they could get out on the sidewalk and promote themselves or their organization. Right. And it costs $100 a year, which is pretty negligible because you can do 7 days a week if you want for the whole year. And I'm kind of pushing the Montessori art students to, it is Montessori, isn't it? Or is Montserrat. Yeah. I'm trying to promote the students to get out on the street more with their artwork, their sketch pads, things that they've made in the welding class that they have, and they have all kinds of classes. Well, Beverly being an art college town, I'd just like them to get the confidence to get out on the street. Absolutely. And show off their work. Yeah. Give other people the idea that they can sign up for classes. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's it. Get out here and show them what talent Beverly has.
Makes perfect sense, you know, and it's a real world experience, you know, out of the classroom.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a great idea, George, and I'd like to see that happen. Now, you have a, I don't know if you would call it, I guess, a history of being a hawker or peddler, which are funny names, and we'll talk about the names in a little bit. Harvard Square, paint the picture. Harvard Square, 1970.
It would have been like 1971, 1972.
Wow. Oh,
and Harvard
era.
Square had a plaza where later Aubon Penn was there, and all of the guys playing chess. It was near the Harvard Square entrance for the Red Line.
The Coop.
The Coop. Yeah, it was across the street. So the city of Cambridge issued 10 permits a week for people to set up on the sidewalk. There was a little raised platform there, and you could sell whatever crafts you were making.
Yeah.
So I would hike there with a backpack full of belts and incense and buckles and curios and things like that, and set up with all the other people and just talk to people going by. You could panhandle a little bit. I always tried to have some kind of joke to tell people, and they would reward you with a quarter.
Right. A little shtick, kind of. Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
And
nice.
And it was a fun thing to do, and that's how I kind of got started with being out on the street in public.
Yeah.
And I've done it in Kalispell, Montana. I had a craft co-op there, and we would put out tables on the street. And then I did a little bit of it in Seattle in the mid-'90s, and Seattle's a beautiful place for that. You could Pike's Market had a reserved area next to the market that artists could set up on, and now I'm in Beverly doing the same thing.
Yeah. George, I think you hit on something.
What's that?
The need for like a peddler's, hawker's market. Where do you think the ideal spot would be for it to happen?
Well, it kind of has to go along with what you're peddling or what you're hawking, but the city is okay if you're set up in a wide spot on the sidewalk so that you're not blocking foot traffic.
Right.
I forget what the square is called where the Golden Hangar is, and the Vietnam Memorial Square, I believe, something like that.
Have they renamed it, or I'm not sure.
Veterans Plaza, maybe?
Cigarette smoking plaza.
Yes. Place to hang out plaza. It's near a church that's right there.
Next to the Unitarian Church.
The Unitarian Church, yeah.
There used to be the original farmers market when Estelle Rand started it was adjacent to the Unitarian Church. That park right there.
Well, it was
before they redid it.
Okay.
But that would be great to kind of to use that space for a market.
Oh yeah,
and have Montserrat part of that. Yeah.
There's plenty of space and plenty of people walking through the area, and I think they'd be more attractive to someone's doing artwork there.
And then if you had a scene like that, then you can always like add to it, right? Someone could come in, play guitar, or you know, you could have a musician, or you could have doing sketches.
Yep.
You know,
caricatures of funny artwork of people.
Yeah.
And maybe even get an accordion player down there. Everybody loves that, right?
Oh, absolutely. You're going old school.
But yeah, a little festival atmosphere. What is it? Pop-up now? Pop-up has been popular for quite a few years now.
Sure. Yep.
You know, get 3 or 4 of your buddies together and go down there and play a little music.
Yeah.
The same with the art students. They're young, they don't have the confidence yet, but they could get 3 or 4 of them could go there all together and
Sure.
do sketches,
Sure. Yep.
do some painting,
Mm-hmm.
do some photography, any number of things that the school teaches.
And then you were talking about maybe that like Montserrat buys a license, and then students
Right.
could use it, you know,
They could umbrella under it.
rather than buying several, you know,
Right.
$100 licenses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm not sure how the city would handle that. That'd be something to look into.
Yeah, but I'm sure they
But
could
it was
work
very,
something out.
it was very easy for me to get this permit. I went to City Hall, to the licensing clerk. You pay $100 cash.
Yeah.
They give you a receipt. You can put it on your taxes after that. It has to go through the city council meeting to be approved. And then also the chief of police has to approve it because, you know, they don't want any, knuckleheads out there doing, you know, disruptive stuff. You know?
So when you got the license, did you have to walk it over to the police department? And,
No, the city
okay.
takes care of all of that. They, the city,
Okay.
you don't have to be at the city council meeting. You don't have to go
You just
see
go to the city
chief of
clerk, and
police.
then the process begins. Yeah, yeah.
You fill out an application, of course, and you say what you're going to do. Now, my permit allows me to sell leather goods,
Right,
so I really can't show up with a whole bunch of yard sale junk
right.
and sell it. That wouldn't be right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's guidelines
Not-
about what you can sell and what you can't sell.
Right, right.
You can't sell firearms or fireworks or, you know, they
Sure.
don't want to see you out
Yeah,
there
yeah.
with, like, you know,
Stupid,
clubs
yeah.
and weapons.
God. So, do you have any idea, like, I haven't seen anyone out there pedaling or hawking. Now,
Yeah.
now hawking is, you're actively, you're vocally saying, you're yelling kind of, hey, leather goods here, you know?
Yeah.
Right? And so you'd be a hawker. A peddler would be more,
Well, I think they're kind of both the same.
they're
You're-
both the same, but
you're-
there is variations, right?
Right. Well, you're hawking goods, and then you're peddling goods. So they're kind of the same thing. I think hawking could lead more towards vocalization of opinions.
Right,
You're hawking an opinion to the public.
okay.
I'm not sure if the town criers back in the day were hawkers.
Right.
I think
And
a
that-
peddler leans more towards goods
that would be carried in or like by,
for sale.
so you could either like, I could picture someone coming in with their wares on top of their head or a knapsack
Right.
or, I mean, I'm talking like, you know, older
school.
versions of this.
Yeah.
Though
Well,
I'm
not
sure,
the guy with the trench coat selling the illegal watches.
Right.
I'm not sure the chief of police would want to allow that.
there's like a hint of like subversiveness to like the whole thing.
little bit.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And they don't clean it up in the terminology. You know, like everything that the city does, it's usually like the wording on it's very like
Right.
like I don't know, like legal in a way. You know, and but this is so funny, like hawkers, peddler's license. You know.
Well, hawkers is a great word, and I mean it never comes up in conversation, right? When was the last time you ever remember using it?
No, and that's why I had to look at the, look at the origins of the word, you know, and hawkers meaning someone who hunts with,
Right.
with a hawk, I guess. Not-
Yeah. Well, the other
well,
term is
falconer, you were saying.
falconer.
Right. Yeah.
Falconer hunts with birds.
Right.
I'm not sure.
and then right.
Hawker could be right for
And then
that.
the peddler, like the origins of that, was it like a French word that was adopted by the English and turned into something else? Who knows, right?
Well, I think peddlers, if you have a mental image of it, it's a guy in a wagon and a horse with pots and pans hanging off that would go from village to village,
Right.
peddling
Right.
his wares.
Yeah.
And you've probably seen it in storybooks.
Yeah, and it's still in areas of the world, I'm sure if you're in an isolated area with no real places to purchase things, I'm sure people come into a village, like will literally carry it in.
Yeah.
So-
what do you think the ice cream truck is?
Yeah.
You know? He's peddling ice cream.
That's true.
He's driving around from beach to beach and park to park.
Of course,
he's peddling ice cream.
I think the term the dope peddler, and you know, too. You know.
Oh yeah, there was a couple of shows that had
now
that.
That's like that. That's gone now. Now that it's become legal, right? It's you no longer have the dude selling weed out of a van or something like that. You got it over the bridge.
That was there was I think that movie, I don't remember which movies they were in that they were doing that. I know they were doing that on the Shameless show.
Okay.
That was one of the things that they were getting away with, the ice cream truck, and they were peddling a little more than ice cream.
Right, right, yeah.
But
so it's kind of fascinating, like what is legitimate through the eyes of officialdom, you know, and then what is it? And then it's sort of like called, you know, peddling or hawking, you know. I mean, meanwhile, the more established is, you know, Fifth Avenue or something, and you know, whatever.
Well, I'll say that when you get the application to get this permit, you fill out all of your name and address and driver's license number. I don't remember if you have to put in your social security number or not, but they need your driver's license number so they can look you up under looking for, you know, bad people. The chief of police.
To do a background check.
Yeah, when you fill that out, they ask you what you're going to be doing, and you know you have enough space for a paragraph of what you're doing, and you can put in a little bit of history if you live in town, or that's all under your address. But it's a one-page form,
right? And
then there's 2 or 3 pages that tell you what you can and cannot do. Okay. And so it's all very clear.
Yeah.
And it's very, very easy to get the permit. And then when you renew it, it goes before the city council again.
Okay.
And if you've not complied to all of the rules, it might come up.
Sure.
And they wouldn't issue you another one.
Right.
But I think it's well worth doing. It's very inexpensive. You get to peddle your wares or hawk your abilities.
Sure.
You know, people that are in their fine arts can do portraits, but nobody knows they do portraits unless they advertise. Mm-hmm. And word of mouth is a great way to advertise, and having your work right out on the street where people are walking back and forth and it rings a bell that they mean to get something done for grandma with the kids' pictures, and they want a portrait done.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think the art students are missing an opportunity by not getting these permits.
Yeah. No, and it's great that the city actually allows this to happen, because I could see it being one of those things where they're like, you can't do it. But it has great potential for sure. And it would be good for just to build community, to promote the arts. It is, you know, arts district. We have an arts college, obviously.
Sure.
You know, even this, like what's happening now with BevCam, it's adding like creativity in the downtown area.
Right.
So the climate is ripe for this type of thing to happen.
Yeah, for more of it to happen.
Absolutely. Sure. So I encourage, and I definitely will talk more about this and see how it comes about. And then George, your nickname is I think is Montana George.
Oh, I don't know.
Is that, or does that differentiate you from other Georges in the community? Is it
no?
Or is that just in my household? Because we know
I think that's that's just in your household. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people know I grew up in Montana, and so Montana is just a place people want to go to, and it's a really beautiful state. And I lived in the northwest corner of the state, and it was the postcard part of the state and the country with Glacier National Park. And
ooh, wow!
And I had bought 5 acres up in the hills and did the whole small house on a creek,
Yeah, yeah.
with no electricity, with a
Off the grid?
wood cook stove.
Wow.
Off the grid before off the grid had been established.
Sure, before it was hip. Yeah.
And it was just the way you lived
Yeah.
in some of
Sure.
those
Yeah. Yeah.
days in
Yeah.
the mid-70s.
Right. Right.
So that was all around 1975
Okay. Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it was a really great experience. A lot of work.
Yeah.
And but I recommend that people with resources give it a shot
Yeah.
if they want. They you know, it's but as far as the nickname goes, I'm a local handyman in town fixing houses and things like that, but I wasn't aware that I had a nickname. Although I did something or another came up in the mail, and I had to send something away and get something back. And when it came back, it said George Sampson, handyman, and then my address. And I was like, I have a title.
Eh?
Now I have a title.
Right.
I'm somebody.
Right, right. You're a
like
handyman.
Steve Martin was in The Jerk,
Yeah.
when he found himself in the phone book.
Right, right, right. So you, is it accurate to say you were, grew up, excuse the term, Army brat? Is that was,
Yeah, let's see. I was an Army brat, and we got shipped around the country, Washington State. I think Pittsfield, Mass. was one of them, and then Washington State, and then actually to Germany, there for a couple of years.
and this was
Early 60s.
Early 60s?
Yeah,
during
I was in Germany when Robert F. Kennedy got shot.
Okay.
because that's all that
1968.
came up on American television,
Right.
which you only got for a few hours a night. Most of the time it was
Right.
German television. And then
Interesting.
we left Germany and we ended up in Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
And after Texas, I ended up in Massachusetts for a while, back in Somerville.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in Montana when I was 14.
Yeah.
So all of that moving around and everything happened in the early years of my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was quite an experience. Went across the Atlantic twice by ship.
And the ship was a cruise liner, or was it a cargo ship?
No, it was an Army transport.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
partially civilian and partially Army.
Okay.
So
the
there was
families.
a whole section of it was just for civilians, and mostly just civilian armed services families.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they had their own ships.
And the
The Army actually brought our car with us
Really?
to Europe.
Wow.
Which was a
Nice cart.
59 Pontiac. So
Wow.
picture a ginormous car with the big fins on it,
Right.
trying to negotiate the European streets.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty.
But now,
Evocative.
to say something about media and YouTube is there's a lot of soldiers now have done videos of Baumholder, Germany,
Okay. Yeah.
was where I lived.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen the apartment building and the playground
Where
that I used to
Wow,
live in, because
wow,
I remember
wow.
the address, and I punched it into Google Earth, and it brought me to a satellite view of the neighborhood that I actually lived in.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can do that with any of your old addresses.
Sure. Yeah.
You can kind of time travel back to an area that you were.
YouTube's
at.
like a museum of some sort, you know? You
Yeah.
can to kind of relive
I
things
found
or see things that you wish you were there for, or I don't know, it goes on and on, rabbit hole.
Yeah. One thing about the Germans is that they really build to last, because the buildings that I was in the early 60s are still being used.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the neighborhood hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. I went to Texas where I lived at. I found that address too, and that whole complex hasn't changed much either.
Yeah. Oh,
Except Killeen and Fort Hood is now a big sprawling urban area.
okay.
When I lived there, it was a one-horse town.
Right, right.
One movie theater, one drugstore, one Piggly Wiggly.
So you thinking of doing a memoir, George, or Could it be an audio memoir or some sort, or?
Well, it kind of have to be. I'm not, I didn't grow up with much education. I educated myself because we moved around a lot. And I have to work and pay the bills, and being a writer, as you know, is a full-time job.
Yeah.
But I suppose I could start recording stories.
Well, I know you're interested in doing a podcast.
Right. Yeah. Might do a podcast, and it would be stories about things I got into living out west, living in Europe, living in Texas. You know, there were some good stories in there, and there were some, you know, tragic stuff that happened with people that I was related to or was involved with, and things like that. Just a little more than the usual. I grew up in a town in Indiana and was there for 20 years.
Sure.
It was like
moved around.
I was never anywhere more than a year or two at a time.
Right. Yeah.
I was always the new kid on the block, and making friends, making enemies. You know how kids are.
Yeah.
They're very judgmental about who you are and whether they want you to be their friend or not.
Yeah.
So you put up with a lot of that, and it makes you more flexible.
There's a lot to a lot of material there to explore as a podcast, and even your. I always thought a cool thing for you to do would be like a fix-it show, because you're pretty handy.
Yeah.
Definitely very resourceful, someone who could get by in any type of circumstances, you know? Well,
I found out now that I've gotten to this age with this much experience that I take it for granted that I can look at a broken this or that, and I just know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Because I've probably done it before, but I know the materials and the tools to use. And I keep forgetting that a lot of people don't know any of that stuff.
No.
And
right.
I recommend what they should do, and a lot of times their eyes just glaze over.
Right.
So then I tell them to watch YouTube.
Yep.
And that can be very helpful. Even if they still hire me, at least they kind of know what's going to happen if they've watched a YouTube video.
Right, yeah.
And you need to take care of your home. Yeah. It's your home. You're spending a lot of money on it, and everybody should know a little bit about their home, and they should love their home and take care of it. And a lot of these little jobs that need to be done, just get them done. Just figure out how to use the tools.
Yeah.
Get some basics. Putty and paint. Back in the 50s, when a woman stayed home and raised the family, a lot of them did all these repairs around the house. Now, in Swampscott, there was a hardware store there, had a couple of old duffers, and I loved their hardware store because they had those dusty corners full of this and that and things that you don't see anymore. Switches and pieces of wire and screws and nails. And one of them, and I was talking to one of them, and he said, housewives used to do all of this work because they were home at their house raising the kids, and you only needed one income in those days to get by. Right. So they would change the spark plugs on the lawnmower.
Sure. Why not?
They would repair their own windows. They would fix their own lamp cords and things like that. And eventually, everybody's having to work to pay the bills, and that kind of thing just fell by the wayside. But women are perfectly capable of doing all of these minor repairs.
My wife is much better than me in terms of like reading directions and actually fixing something, or So it's but I think sharing that type of knowledge, I think you're a great local resource to tap, and if that came out in a podcast or however you choose, but so I'm glad you got like a taste of like the podcast and how it works. It's very simple.
Well, it's a very nice studio, and nice people that run it.
Yeah, got Jonathan here.
Yeah, Jonathan.
At the helm, and
best looking man in Beverly.
We'll have to get a shot at Jonathan. And there's also a workshop coming up, George, which I mentioned. I think it's like the 16th on podcast.
And, something I could attend.
Giving you pointers, you know.
Right.
But like you're a great resource, and BevCam's a great resource. So get together. You know?
I think people could talk to you also about amateur writing and how to get started as an amateur writer. And you've published a couple of books.
2, 3, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of them that I read was, I think it was your first one, that was
about the gutter. The roofing novel.
The roofing novel.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I've done a little bit of roofing, and so you can relate to it.
Yeah. It's very
But Sean is very good at writing and getting to the point and being concise.
Mm-hmm.
And can I tell you a pet peeve about writers?
Why not?
Okay. And so I like to read a lot.
Yeah.
And every now and then you'll be reading maybe a favorite author or maybe a new author, and you'll be going along and he'll throw in a strange word.
Okay.
Because maybe he's bored. And so he'll put in like this 50-cent word.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That you just have to stop, and then you have to go look it up, you know? And I'm like, he's just bored, or he's just messing with his readers.
Posturing, you know,
and it's like, I didn't want to stop the flow and have to go look up this word.
Right.
It's fun, but it's also kind of a pet peeve.
Yeah.
When you're reading from now on, see if that happens to you as you're going along.
Yeah. It's funny, right? Because you can read stuff that occasional word that you don't necessarily know what the meaning is. You look it up. That's fine. But if you do have something where it's like, you know, it's continuous, like, oh my gosh, I have to look everything up here. That does impede the flow of reading, you know. So
it does, yeah.
But I like writing that's relatable and sort of, you know, I don't know, like not too
not
sophisticated,
too complicated or sophisticated.
Yeah, because you can get into that kind of elitist. Anyway, that's like another topic. But yeah, George, you know, again, like when I talk to you, like resiliency and sort of that off-grid kind of mentality in a sense, or do-it-yourself, you know, qualities that you have that are like seem to be eroding a little bit, you know, like do-it-yourself, fixer up.
Right.
A lot of people like will, and they're busy. They'll contract everything out, you know.
Right. And that's fine.
Which is totally fine, but I think like you could encourage people to just maybe some of that smaller work.
Sure,
a
I've
little
had
putty,
people,
a little touch up. Yeah.
I remember a long time ago, a young couple, they hired me to come and put in a light bulb into a lamp at their desk that they kept blowing out.
All right. Yeah.
And it was in the early days with the light bulbs that you couldn't touch. They'd get very hot.
Okay.
I can't
So
remember
that's why
the
they got you.
exact name of them.
Yeah.
But if you touched them, the oil on your skin would heat up and crack the bulb. So this young couple had done this a couple of times, and they hired me and paid me $15 to put a bulb in that I knew to pick up with a tissue paper.
Okay.
And put it in. And when I looked at their packaging, the bulb company actually had small pieces of tissue paper.
Okay.
If they had read the instructions, they would have been fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's something I could have done too.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the point I'm getting at is a lot of these things are very simple.
Yeah.
And
right.
And if I do a podcast with that sort of thing, I'll come on with some samples of like which kind of nails you're going to run in around your house.
Right.
And screws and which ones not to buy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tools out there, and they'll say it will perform magic for you.
Yeah.
And then you try it and it doesn't work when you could have done something very simply.
Sure. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it,
Okay.
and awesome.
Yeah, I'll make some time.
Well, thanks, George. Thanks for coming on.
Well, it's
And,
been fun.
yeah, yeah.
I
And,
appreciate it.
Yeah, and great. Well, this has been the Sharing Will, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.